Hi, in this video, we're going to talk about the certificate. Now, certificate is one of the most important topic within Cisco collaboration. And as we are moving into working from home, logging in from various devices, um, logging in from hotels, we need to have a proper way to secure our communication. Cisco Unified Communication Manager will use certificate that can use a public key infrastructure or PKI in order to validate the server and client identity and to enable the encryption concept. It presents its certificate to Unified Communication Manager in order to verify its identity. Now, when another system, for example, a phone or a media server, tries to communicate with Cisco Unified Communication Manager, it will it will not automatically trust that system, and usually it will deny access to it unless it has a matching certificate in its appropriate trust store trusting the certificate of that particular server. A certificate is a file that contains the certificate holder name, public key, and the digital signature of the certificate authority who actually issued the certificate, verifying the authenticity of the client. A certificate will prove the identity of the owner of the certificate. For Cisco Unified Communication Manager to be able to process an encrypted communication, you need to enable mixed mode, which in order for you to do that, you got to make sure that Cisco Unified Communication Manager version that you're using is the right version. For example, Cisco has two versions of Call Manager or CUCM. You have the encrypted unrestricted version, and then you have a restricted version. So if you're using unrestricted version, you may not be able to enable encryption. So you need to make sure that the version of the installation that you have that is proper enough that you can enable the encryption. And I believe it must be the restricted version. Now, restricted version may not be available for all the countries, so you may want to look into that. The mixed mode, which can be enabled only through the CLI mode, is basically means that Cisco Unified Communication Manager will be able to process an encrypted and unencrypted signaling. Now, by default, mixed mode is disabled, which means that you can only route unencrypted traffic. Starting with Call Manager version 10, mixed mode is enabled by default. Prior to version 10, it is required the use of two hardware keys. Now, to enable mixed mode mixed mode, you need to go to the enterprise parameter, and you can see that mixed mode is disabled. To enable, you can connect to the command line and issue a following command. For example, you could issue a command called util cti set cluster mixed mode. And when you enable this command, it will of course have to reboot the system. And at that moment, when you go back here, you will see the version number set to 1, which is an indication that mixed mode is enabled. Now, to enable mixed mode, simply SSH to your server and issue this command util ctl set -cluster mix -mode. Now, this command will require you to reboot, and it may require you to reboot. So feel free to make sure you do that during your maintenance window. So what is a certificate? Well, there are many different types of certificate. You got a server certificate and you got a certificate authority certificate. Server certificate basically identify or validate the server that you're working on, such as Call Manager or IMN Presence. And certificate authority certificate is a certificate of the company who is issuing or validating the certificate. In other words, the company that you actually purchase the certificate from, such as VeriSign, GoDaddy, or ZeroSSL. So when you have a call manager, will initiate a request to certificate authority saying, hey, I would like to purchase a new certificate. There are certain settings that you have to do, a configuration that you have to do in the call manager, which will create some sort of encrypted file, which you will then upload it to the certificate authority or the company where you're buying the certificate from. And once you do that, they will issue it after validation. They will issue a certificate, and that becomes your server certificate. Now you will need to download the certificate and upload it to your call manager. The problem with that is that when you upload a call manager, a server certificate, call manager want to make sure that the certificate that you're uploading is trusted. So to do that, what you need to do first, you need to upload the certificate authority certificate. Remember what I said? Certificate authority certificate is a certificate that validates the company where you're purchasing the certificate from. So they will typically GoDaddy or Zero SSL, they will issue two certificates for you. One is your server certificate, and other one is going to be called the certificate chain or the root certificate. You will upload the root certificate into Tomcat Trust or Call Manager Trust, both location. You will upload it first, and then you will upload the server certificate that you have. So that is a procedure for Cisco Unified Communication Manager to become or assign a certificate properly. Now, obviously, when your laptop wants to communicate with the call manager, whether you're going browser-based or whatnot, what the call server will do, server will send you the server certificate. Now, your laptop or desktop or endpoint or whatever the device that you're using, what you're going to do, you're going to look at the server certificate and find out who's the certificate authority. Let's say it is GoDaddy. Now, usually what happens is your computer or desktop that you're using may already have the root certificate of GoDaddy or SSL, Zero SSL or VeriSign. And if it does so, which comes with the Windows, by the way, or as you go through various websites, it might have that. When you try to validate that, you're going to look at your internal certificate list to see that the root certificate of this particular server certificate already exists. And if it does, is going to validate, basically verifies that you are the authenticated person. If your computer or laptop does not have the root certificate, the computer or laptop will not trust the server certificate that you're trying to, let's say, connect to. What's going to happen is you're going to get in a browser error saying certificate not valid. You are connecting with an unencrypted, non-secure connection. And in some cases, some application will fail. So this is why it's important that you upload the root certificate onto the desktop or the laptop or the mobile client if it is already well-known server certificate that already exists in the market. So like I said, most common server certificates are probably most likely will be part of your Windows installation or or whatever the operating system you're using, or even the browser that you're using. Now, public CA, which is the company like VeriSign, GoDaddy, or Zero SSL, issue certificate which will be required on the server that are providing the services. A public CA, which is an organization, usually you can use either a public certificate server like Symantec, VeriSign, GoDaddy, or you could use a private CA, which is called based on Microsoft Certificate Server. If the public server held a server certificate from the unrecognized CA, the connecting device will reject the certificate and connection would fail or might give you a warning. A private CA, in this case Microsoft Certificate Server, are deployed behind the firewall, which is usually within your network, and issue certificate that will be accepted within the enterprise. However, these certificate will not be recognized by a third-party client because they are internal. So what you can do to have the third party client recognize the server certificate issued by your internal CA, you take the Microsoft Certificate Server's root certificate and you give it to them, or you upload it to their PC. Then they will, their PC will then trust your servers, certificate servers. So private CA are used to issue certificate to internal servers that are commonly called self-signed certificate, since they are issued by the enterprise to their own servers. Now, this saves enterprise time and money since they're internal and they can easily deploy. Now, obviously, you have to keep in mind that some third-party application or companies will not automatically trust your certificate because it was not issued from a public environment. So certificate signing requests. So one of the first things that you're going to do in your call manager is you're going to generate a certificate request as if you're purchasing a certificate server or certificate, not the server. Well, when you do generate the request, what's going to happen in call manager is going to create two files. One is called the private key and one is going to be called certificate signing request or CSR. CSR file, which is basically a text file with kind of look like a Greek language. No offense to Greek. So it's like an encrypted language, which is called the public key. It will then be sent to the certificate's authority. Certificate authority, what we'll do, we will, after taking your payment, process it, encrypt it, and send you the public key in an encrypted certificate format or encrypted format. So now the public key is encrypted with the certificate validated by the certificate authority. You will then have an option to upload this certificate into the call manager server, as well as a server certificate into the call manager. Now the server certificate will go to the trust store, and the server certificate will go to either call manager or Tomcat, both location. So you will upload all the CA certificate or the root certificate into the trust, whereas server certificate will go to the respective servers. Now there are many different certificate requirements. Cisco Unified CM requires a CA certificate authority and a server certificate to be uploaded for each services across a cluster. For example, a CA and a server certificate must be uploaded for Tomcat service for your web access to the server to be encrypted. Separately, you need to upload the call manager server certificate for call manager services. Certificate can be the same CA, which is fine. However, server certificate must be uploaded once for each type of services. So you got Tomcat and the call manager. Tomcat services are used when you're trying to access the web interface of the server, such as administration page, OS administration, service availability, etc. Call manager is used by Cisco phone when they're registering with the call manager. So any application, endpoint, Java access, accessing the call manager services will use this certificate. And they have to be generated separately. Services that support certificate verification are listed in the following table. If Cisco Unified CM is in the cluster, then certificate only need to be uploaded once for each services. So that means that if you have a publisher, one subscriber, and one IM and presence, which happens to be in one cluster, you upload the certificate in one location, it will get distributed to all the servers. So you don't have to repeat the process for all of them. Now, the call manager supports two types of certificate. You got privacy enhanced mail or PEM. This format contains the X509 certificate encoded in text or base 64 encrypted. And it is supported by Cisco VCS and Cisco Call Manager or CUCM. Most common format in unified communication. And then you have another type called Distinguish Encoding Rules or DER, which contains X509 certificate in a binary form and only supported by Cisco Unified Communication Manager or CUCM. It is not supported by other Cisco collaboration application. The difference between the two types is simply the way certificate is encoded, but while CM can support either format, most other product does not. So in this case, make sure it is probably better to use the PEM format for all. All right, so that's pretty much all there is for the certificate. Now let's take a look at the lab of how to generate certificate within your private environment. So right now I'm in my call manager, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make sure. Now I'm going to generate a certificate based on all three servers. Okay, so that means both publisher, subscriber, and IM and presence. To do that, make sure that all of them web interface are accessible. Okay, now whether you can log in or that they're configured, that's not the point right now. First thing first, we're going to go to Microsoft Certificate Server. Hopefully the server is up. All right, so I have my Microsoft Certificate Server ready to go. I'm going to increase the font size. Now, before I do anything here, I need to download the CA certificate first. So let's go download, and I'm going to choose the base certificate, and I'm going to choose download CA certificate right there. Okay, so it's downloaded, called cert new one in a bracket. As long as we have, if you want, you can always rename it. So I will go ahead and rename this to root CA. Okay, I will copy that into a different folder. All right, so I have the certificate created and it is right now in this folder. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the call manager and generate a root server certificate request. So I'm going to go to the OS administration page. So go ahead and log in. And we're going to generate. Now, there are two ways to generate. You can generate certificate for each server individually, such as publisher, subscriber, and IMN presence. Or I can generate a multi-server, which will support all three. So it's totally up to you, which one you want to do. For some reason, sometimes you may want to separate them for security policy reason, or you want to keep it all in the same. So I'm going to go to certificate and I'm going to say certificate management. And it's going to say generate CSR. Right now, I do not have any certificate created for this. And you can see right here, it says not secure. And that is an indication the server certificate is not really secure at this stage. Okay, so what you're seeing right here, if you look at the call manager trust, that is where root certificate goes. You will see Tomcat trust right there. That's where the root certificate will go. So what we're going to do is generate CSR. So I'm going to click on that. And I will have the option to purpose the certificate. So first I'm going to do is create a Tomcat certificate. So I'm going to choose Tomcat. Then distribution. Distribution, if you specify the server name versus multi-server. If you do a multi-server, is going to create certificate for all the three servers that you have in your cluster. Publisher, one subscriber, one IMN presence. But if you're doing individually, that means you got to do this process individually to all three servers. More time consuming, more costly. So I'm going to specify multi-server. And what it's going to do is automatically going to find all the servers from the cluster. And as you can see, I'm in presence, publisher, and subscriber. It automatically found that information because it's part of the cluster. And as soon as you're trying to click on generate, what it's going to do is going to create the public private key and the certificate request. And the private key will be distributed onto all the three servers that you have. So that because they all have to have that. So I'm going to go ahead and generate that. It's taking a little time because of the process of copying the file, creating the file in all three servers and copying it. It will take a little time. So be patient. Now, if there is an existing CSR that already exists, it will override that. So you want to make sure. All right, certificate success. It says successfully exported, export operation on all three servers. So which is a good thing because it has been copied to all those files. I'm going to close this. And as I close this, you'll see that there, after refreshed it, you'll see a new download option. You got one upload and generate CSR. There'll be new button shows up here called download. That means you're ready to download the CSR. Now, before I do that, I want to regenerate another certificate, and this one is going to be the call manager one. Remember, we need both Tomcat and the call manager. So I will select the call manager and I will do the same thing. Simply choose the distribution this. And when you do a call manager, it only creates it for the publisher and subscriber because IMN presence is not a call manager. So therefore, it does not need the certificate for the IMN presence. Okay, so go ahead and generate that. Again, it's going to upload it to both publisher and subscribers. And if you have more than one subscribers, it will upload all of those subscribers as long as it's part of the same cluster. Okay, so it's done. I will close it now. I'm now ready to download both of my requests, which means I'm going to take that request, go to my certificate authority, and I'm going to purchase the certificate server. So go ahead and download it. You're going to download both individually. So I'm going to say download Tomcat first. So Tomcat, download the CSR. You'll see Tomcat CSR downloaded. I will go to Call Manager, download. Call Manager CSR has been downloaded. So I'm going to start with the Tomcat first. I'm going to go to Tomcat CSR, and you see that this will be like a notepad. I'm going to open it in Notepad, and this is what it looks like. So you got a kind of like a encrypted version. All I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all Control Alt to copy it. Go to Microsoft Certificate Server. I'm going to go to make sure I'm in the main page, and I'm going to say Request Certificate. Okay, so I'm going to click on Advanced, and I'm going to paste that information right there. Then the certificate template is going to be called VBC client server or any client server name, doesn't matter. And I'm going to click on Submit. It will issue certificate, has been automatically issued, and I have a two format, PEM format or DER format. I'm going to choose the PEM base 64, and I'm going to click on the first one, download. I don't need the second one. I just need the first one. Again, you can see cert new one has been downloaded. All right, so now I will go back and click on the call manager. So I'm going to remember cert new one is your Tomcat, and the call manager that we're going to create is going to be a new certificate. Make sure the call manager one, copy, request, advance, paste, and submit. Okay, click on paste, 6 download. You got two, certificate one, cert new one, cert new two. Cert new one is my Tomcat, cert new two is my call manager. Again, you can always copy them from those two folder and bring it back to the folder that you want to upload them all. So again, if you want to be a little bit more, easy on yourself, you can rename it to Tomcat, and you want to rename it to Call Manager. Okay, so I got my certificate ready. I'm ready to upload. So you will go back to your Call Manager. Right here it says upload certificate. Remember the root certificate, we're going to upload that first. So the root certificate will go to the Tomcat Trust and Call Manager Trust. Okay, so what I'll do, let me open the X. So I'm going to say first Tomcat Trust. Now, if I try to upload that to server certificate first, let's try it. So I'm going to go to dev certificate. Let's say I'm going to do Tomcat. Let's try without the root, see what happens. Usually what's going to happen is that if your call, as you can see, certificate is not available in the trust store, that means the root does not exist. So it cannot validate that. So we want to upload the root first. So we're going to say Tomcat Trust, and we're going to go select the root certificate first. And root has to be uploaded to both Tomcat Trust as well as Call Manager Trust. So we're going to make sure that that part is taken care of first. So it's done. I'm going to go to Call Manager Trust now and choose the same file because it's the same root. And once this is done, now we're ready to upload your Call Manager, rather your server certificate. So I'm going to go to Tomcat first. As you can see, Tomcat is still using self-sign. I'm going to choose Tomcat, the server version, not the root, upload. It should recognize that right now because it was issued by the same root certificate. So again, when it's uploading the certificate on not only this server, but also on the publisher, subscriber, and IM presence. So that's why it takes a little time for it to upload to complete. Now, once the certificate is uploaded, what you are need to do, you need to log into CLI to your server and reboot the server, TFTP service and various few other services. I just reboot the server. All right, so the Tomcat is done. I'm going to go ahead, and as you can see, it says HQ pub, HQ sub, and IMN presence. The certificate has been uploaded. Run util service restart Tomcat for this to happen. Now you got to do that for all the three servers individually. I'm going to go ahead and call manager now and upload. So that's basically how you manage certificate on the server. At this moment, I will SSH into the server or putty into the server while we're waiting for the upload to happen. Okay, all the certificate upload has been done. All I have to do right now is reboot the server, all three of them, and my certificate should be valid. Once I reboot it, make sure you do not go to the server by IP address anymore. You have to use the domain name or fully qualified domain name to be able to see it is secure or not. Okay, because certificate use host name, fully qualified domain name. It does not use IP address for validations. So that's pretty much it for our certificate. Hopefully you got a picture of how to manage your certificate for your environment, how to request a new one. Process for all the other website like a GoDaddy, VeriSign, or Zero SSL are very similar from the call manager. It's exactly the same from the call manager perspective. However, process from the service provider could vary because of the web interfaces that they use. It may differ from one company to another company. So not very hard thing to do in terms of learning. A little bit learning curve is required, but otherwise the process is the same. So I hopefully you hope you understood the certificate process in the Cisco collaboration. It can apply to pretty much any other applications that you have that requires SSL. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.